Toyota. You're probably thinking of cars, right? Reliable, efficient, pretty standard stuff. But what if I told you the real secret to their success has nothing to do with engines at all? It's about weaving cloth. Yep, you heard that right. We're going to unravel this incredible story of how a company that made looms ended up leading the entire car industry.
So that's the big question, isn't it? How in the world do you go from weaving fabric to building some of the most popular cars on the planet? I mean, it seems like a huge leap. But the answer is, well, it's fascinating. And it's not really about the cars. It's about a core philosophy, a whole way of thinking that turned out to be so powerful, it could probably revolutionize any industry. Okay, so to really get this, we're going to break the journey down into 5 key parts. We'll kick things off with their surprising start in looms, then see how a crisis actually created their world-changing system. After that, we'll look at how they took on the US market, reinvented the engine with a hybrid, and then we'll tie it all together with the core philosophy that makes Toyota, well, Toyota. All right, let's jump in. We're starting at the very beginning. And I mean, before there was even a single car, before the rubber ever hit the road, there was thread. So it all goes back to this one guy, Sakichi Toyota, and his looms. Now, he wasn't just in the business of weaving cloth. He was obsessed with perfecting the process. And his big genius idea? He invented a loom that would automatically stop the second a single thread broke. This concept, Jidoka, was a total game changer. Think about it. Instead of a worker making yards and yards of bad fabric, the machine itself was smart enough to stop and say, hey, problem here. It stopped waste right at the source. And check out how fast things moved. Sakachi's son, Kichiro, he saw where the world was heading, automobiles. So he made this incredibly bold move. In 1933, he starts up an automotive division inside the Loom company. Just 4 years later, Toyota Motor Company is its own separate business. I mean, think about that speed. From looms to a full-on car company in less than 5 years? That was a massive, risky bet. And here's a little tidbit I love. Even the name Toyota was a strategic choice. The family name is actually Toyota, with a D. So why the change? Well, in Japanese, writing Toyota takes exactly 8 brushstrokes, and 8 is considered a very lucky number. It's a small detail, but it says a lot, right? It shows they were thinking big, building a global brand that they hoped would have good fortune from day one. Okay, so they had the ambition, they even had the lucky name. But funny enough, their biggest breakthrough, it didn't come from success. Nope, it came from being on the brink of total collapse. It was a crisis that forced them to invent something that would literally change how the world makes things. The years right after World War II were just brutal for Japan. The economy was in ruins, and Toyota was basically on life support. I'm talking, they were barely churning out a few hundred trucks a month. They were staring bankruptcy right in the face. It got so bad they had to lay people off, and the company president even resigned. Honestly, it really looked like this was the end of the line for them. But it's funny how things work. Out of that absolute desperation came their single greatest idea, the Toyota Production System, or TPS for short. Now, this wasn't some fancy theory cooked up in a boardroom. It was forged in the fire. They had no money, no materials, no time. They had to find a new way to work. And their solution, while it sounds simple, was totally radical. They basically declared war on waste. Any kind of waste. Wasted parts, wasted movement, wasted time, all of it had to go. And this whole system really stands on 3 powerful ideas. First up is just in time. The idea here is instead of having huge warehouses full of expensive parts just sitting there, you make only what you need right when you need it. Super efficient. Second, remember Jidoka from the looms? They brought that back, but for the entire assembly line. Any worker at any time could pull a cord and stop the whole line if they spotted a problem. This baked quality right into the process. And the third pillar, this is a big one, is Kaizen. This is all about a culture of continuous improvement. Everyone, and I mean everyone, from the top execs to the folks cleaning the floors, was empowered to find ways to make things just a little bit better every single day. So now, they're armed with this revolutionary new system. Let's see what happens when this little Japanese company decides to take on the biggest, baddest, most competitive market on Earth, the United States. And their strategy for taking on America was just brilliant. See, they didn't try to fight Detroit on their own turf. They didn't try to build a better muscle car. While the big American companies were all about bigger, more powerful, more expensive cars, Toyota went the other way. They quietly targeted a group of people that Detroit had basically forgotten about. Folks who just wanted a small, cheap, reliable car that was good on gas. It was genius.
They found an open lane and just drove right through it. And the effect of that Toyota production system on their costs? It was absolutely mind-blowing. Just look at this table. Back in 1952, it cost way more to build a car in Japan than in the US. I mean, way more. But fast forward just 12 years to 1964, and the whole thing has completely flipped because they were so obsessed with efficiency, they could now build a car for less than their American rivals. That gave them a huge advantage. So you've got this cost advantage, plus you're building a reputation for cars that just don't break down. And then the 1970s oil crisis hits. Gas prices go through the roof. All of a sudden, those small, fuel-efficient Toyotas weren't just a quirky choice anymore. They were the smartest choice you could make. And you can see what happened next. Their market share just exploded, from almost nothing to nearly a third of the entire US market in just a few years. It was a takeover. So you'd think after conquering the American market, they might, take a break. But that's not the Toyota way. They didn't rest. Instead, they took that same innovative spirit and pointed it at a whole new problem: the future of the car itself, and this little thing called sustainability. And this quote from one of their execs really says it all. Their move into hybrids, it wasn't just a cynical play for market share. It really came from that core Toyota principle of thinking long-term. They saw the environmental writing on the wall and felt like they had a real responsibility to be part of the solution, not just part of the problem.
But here's the smart part. Toyota knew that just being green wasn't going to be enough. I mean, you can make the most environmentally friendly car in the world, but if it's slow and boring, no one's going to buy it. So that led to this idea they called hybrid synergy drive. The goal wasn't just to be efficient, it was to use that electric motor to make the car feel quicker, smoother, more fun to drive. It had to be a better car that also just happened to be better for the planet.
So how did they do it? Well, they took that same anti-waste idea from the factory and applied it right to the car. Think about it. What's one of the biggest wastes of fuel when you're driving in a city? Your engine running while you're sitting at a red light, right? The hybrid system's first job was to kill that waste. Stop the car and the gasoline engine shuts off. Simple? Okay, part 2. They made sure the engine was never working harder than it needed to. It's programmed to stay in its sweet spot, its most efficient speed. And when you need that extra oomph to accelerate, the electric motor jumps in to help out. It's all about teamwork. And here's the really clever part, the synergy in hybrid synergy drive. In a regular car, when you brake, all that forward motion energy just turns into heat and vanishes. It's wasted. But with regenerative braking, the system captures that energy. It's like the brakes turn into a mini generator, sending electricity back to recharge the battery. You're basically recycling your own motion. It's a beautiful, elegant little loop. And the car that put all this incredible tech together was, of course, the Toyota Prius. When it came out in 1997, it looked like something from the future. And it really was. As the world's very first mass-produced hybrid, it was a huge, huge gamble for Toyota. But boy, did it pay off. The Prius became a cultural icon and basically forced every other car company on the planet to get serious about hybrids. All right, so let's bring it all home. Let's tie together the threads that connect that very first automated loom all the way to the modern hybrid. When you boil it all down, what you're left with is the Toyota way. And it's so much more than just a manufacturing system, it's a whole culture. It's this core belief in putting the customer first. It's that relentless drive for improvement, that kaizen. It's an obsession with getting rid of waste. And maybe most importantly, it's a deep respect for people and teamwork. All of it is wrapped up in this commitment to thinking long-term, not just about the next quarter, but about the next 50 years. So from a simple loom that knew when to stop, to a factory system that changed the world, to a car that reinvented efficiency, this way of thinking has proven itself over and over again. And that really leaves us with one final big question. The Toyota system reinvented manufacturing. What will it reinvent next?